What is a computer? Computer is an electronic device that can perform millions of calculations or can execute millions of instructions in a second. Well, our computer is a very fast machine. It can perform multiple operations in a few seconds only, and it is capable enough to calculate various operations or to perform various calculations in just a few seconds. The word computer is derived from the word compute, which means to calculate. Well, initially when they developed these machines, they were using these machines only for the calculation purpose. That is why these computers were used as calculators only at that time. Basic objective of a computer is to process the data entered by the user and calculate the result. In general, a computer works on the inputs given by the user to generate the proper output. Now we will discuss about some advantages and some disadvantages of a computer. So the first advantage of our computer is its speed. In general, no human being can compete to solve the complex calculations faster than computer, because our computer can solve millions of calculations in a second, so it makes it faster in compared to the humans. Next is accuracy. Well, since computer is programmed, so whatever input we give, it gives correct result with proper accuracy. Well, because all these computers are programmed by programmers, so it calculates proper or appropriate output depending on that program. Next is storage. Computer can store mass storage of data with appropriate format. It can keep our files for very long time, and it separates all these files in its memory management. Next is diligence. Computer can work for hours without any break and creating errors. Well, like us, computer never feel tired. It can work for very long time without creating any error or without committing any error. Versatility. We can use computers to perform completely different types of works at the same time. It means at the same time you can play a game, you can play a music, you can watch a movie, you can download some files, you can type something, and your computer will manage all these operations very properly without any difficulty. Next is power of remembering. It can remember data for us. Our computer can save our data items for us so that we can use it in our future requirements. Now we will discuss some disadvantages. Well, being a machine, as it has some advantages, so it means it will have some disadvantages also. The first one is no IQ, because our computer is a machine. So computer does not work without instructions. It means every time for generating some outputs, it needs some instructions from the user or from the programmer, and without these instructions it cannot work. Next is no feeling. Computer does not have emotions, knowledge, experience or feeling. Well, because it's a machine, so it cannot understand our feelings or our emotions. Well, let's say you are feeling tired or you are feeling bored, your computer will not be able to understand your situation. Next, no power to make decisions. Well, because it is a machine, it is an electronic device, so it cannot perform all its decisions by its own. It always needs a user assistant. Next is dependent on electricity. Well, because our computer is an electronic machine, so that is the main reason why it is dependent on electricity. So these were some advantages and disadvantages of computer. Now before moving forward, there are a few things that you must have to know. Well, just now we have learned these 3 points: no IQ, no feeling, and no power to make decisions. Well, there's a possibility that in the coming future, the new machines that we will use, in these new machines might be our computer will have the IQ, it will be able to understand us, and they can take their own decisions. Because right now, we are working on artificial intelligence. You must have your Google Assistant in your phone, you must have Siri in your iPhone. So all these technologies can help us to remove the disadvantages of the computers. Now, in this, we will discuss about the components of our computer system. Well, computer itself is a combination of different type of separate electronic devices. That is, computer only will be computer if it has input devices, processing unit, and output devices. As you can see in this picture, it has 3 parts. This part is input device, and in the center it has CPU, and in this side it has output devices. In general, our computer works on a very basic simple principle. That principle is termed as IPO cycle. That is input, process, and then output. Every time when you use your computer, you will give some inputs. Your computer will process the inputs inside the CPU, and then you will get a output. Well, all the devices with the help of which you can enter your data are termed as input devices, and all the devices with the help of which you can get your output are termed as your output devices. Now let's discuss about the CPU. Our CPU has 3 components. These 3 components are control unit, arithmetical and logical unit, and memory unit. We will discuss about these components in the next slide. So just now we are about to discuss about the hardware components. You must have found that our computer is a machine, and we can touch or feel that machine. Well, that piece of machine which we are able to feel or touch, it is our hardware. So the component that we can touch or feel are termed as hardware components. It means the computer that you have in your home is a piece of hardware. These hardwares are of 2 types: input devices and output devices. Input devices, the devices through which we can give our inputs or enter data, are called input devices. It means all sort of devices that we have through which we can give our instructions to our machine are the input devices. For example, you are typing something from your keyboard, so that will be an input. You are using your mouse for locating something, so that will be an input. Suppose you are clicking some pictures in your camera, so that can be an input from your camera. Suppose you are recording something from your recorder, so that recording and that recorder is also an input. Now we will discuss about the output devices. The devices through which we can get final result or output are called output devices. It means all the devices which can help us to get our final output are termed as output devices. So for example, suppose you wanted to make a picture. So for making that picture, let's say you are making that picture in Paint program. So for that making that picture, when you will use your mouse, that mouse will be termed as your input device, because that mouse is giving the instructions to the computer program. And when you draw something, you will get some visuals on your display, on your monitor. So because your monitor is giving you some visuals of your input, so that's why your monitor will be termed as a output device. Similarly, when we print something, because we can use that print as a result file, so it is termed as our output device. Similarly, we can use a speaker for getting the output. So these are some basic input and output devices. Now children, there is a homework for you all. You have to name some input devices and output devices. Now, we will discuss about software components. Well, you must have found that whenever we open our mobile phone or our computer or any electronic gadget, in all these gadgets we have some interface to work with. For example, in your phone you must have some apps, in your PC you must have some applications. So all these applications, these apps or the layout that we get, these are termed as softwares. Fine. Now let's understand what is the software. Software is a set of programs that can be used to perform any task in the computer. These components can't be touched but can be seen. It means our software is a set of programs or it is a set of instructions which will guide our computer system to work on our inputs. Well, because these are some programs, so that's why we can't touch them, but we can see these softwares on our computer's display. These softwares are of two types. First one is termed as system software and the second one is termed as application software. Fine. Now, all the softwares that can maintain the smooth functionality of our computer or that can help us to use our computer are termed as system softwares. Now let's see. System softwares control the working of your computer system. It acts like an interface between the user and the computer. For example, whenever we open our phone, we get some layout. Fine, we get an interface to use the application. So it means in our mobile phones we have any operating system, and that is Android OS. Fine. So the examples of system softwares are operating systems, device drivers, and some utility softwares. In general, these utilities are like antivirus, disk fragmenter programs, fine, which can help us to maintain the smoothness in our working. Next we have application softwares. Now, whenever we use our computer for any specific purpose, we use a application. For example, you are playing a game, so that game will be a application for the PC. Suppose you were drawing something, so that drawing software will be the application for our computer. Fine. So these application softwares are designed to help the user in performing a certain type of work. Some common examples are MS Paint, MS Word and MS Excel. Fine. So it was all about hardwares and softwares. Now we have to discuss about the CPU and the components of the CPU. Well, CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. Well, as the name suggests, it is the main core of our computer which will work for processing the data. As you can see in the name, it is processing. It means this unit will process all our inputs to give us a proper output. CPU is termed as the brain of the computer. Well, this is the main important unit, so that is why it is termed as the brain. It performs the processing of the inputs and generates the output. Well, our CPU gets the input from the input devices, processes it, and then gives the output to the output devices. And for this functionality, it has three components. These three parts of CPU are control unit, arithmetical and logical unit, and memory unit. In the control unit, whenever we perform any input or output operation, that command is first taken by the CU, and then some instructions are given to the ALU. If we are performing any type of calculation or if there is any logical task to be done, then that instruction is given to the ALU. And after processing, all the results are stored in the MU. So all these three units of CPU work together to generate our result.